Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video. Hope you're all doing well. I have not been so well over the last couple of weeks. I came down with COVID, I think at the start of last week, so I had some time off work and recovered from that. Spent a lot of time in a feverish state listening to music, so that was kind of good fun in a way. Yeah, I'll catch you up with some things I've been buying. Vinyl, finds, everything is, well, I think half the pile is online purchases, half the pile is either from charity shops or from my local dealer. So we'll go through. In the background you may faintly be able to hear this record. This is one I picked up from Heightside Record stand here in Lancaster a few weeks back. Casey and the Sunshine Band, their greatest hits. Not a group I've ever owned anything by, either on vinyl or CD. The closest thing I came to years ago was I think it was a CD, maybe from the library, which I copied. Just one of those great kind of 1970s party bands from Florida. Don't like all of the stuff on this. There's some cheesy things I could do without, but there's some classics. You've got, give it up. That's the way I like it. And on side 2, an absolutely tremendous track, which I think was released as a 12-inch single, called You Said You'd Give Me Some More, which goes on for about 12 minutes and is just absolutely fantastic. It's almost like a kind of rare groove track, really good. It'll be coming on in a minute, although it's on quite quiet, so you probably won't be able to hear it too well. There's the big guy there. So yeah, and apparently this sticker is removable, as long as you have about 2 gallons of lighter fuel. Right, so let's start off with the worst record in the pile. Now this one, I shouldn't have bought it, and I bought it out of a misguided attempt to be completist. I decided a while ago I was going to attempt to finish the collection of 10cc. So I picked up this record sort of knowing it wasn't really going to be any good. Now, this is very misleading because it says Are You Normal on the cover, but the actual title of the album is Look Here. So that cover was done by Hypnosis, and I think you'd agree, for an album that's called Look Here, it's not the most effective album cover of all time, is it? On the back it just says The Group, and you have here the extended band, which came into formation after the 10cc split of about 1974, when Graham Gouldman and Eric Stewart remained, kept the name 10cc, and Kevin Godley and Lol Cream left to form Godley and Cream, and Eric and Graham got in some other guys, including Rick Fenn and a couple of other few chaps, and continued making 10cc records for a number of years, and a couple of them were alright, a couple of them were quite good in fact, kind of early on, but they gradually lost inspiration, they lost a sense of purpose, I think. They lost touch with what was going on in music. That's the main thing that comes through with this record. This came out in 1980, and there's not a single trace anywhere of it, of any of the kind of stuff that had been happening in music from, say, 76 onwards, I mean, you wouldn't expect NTC to have any elements of punk in their sound, but no elements of post-punk, electronic, nothing. There's no acknowledgement at all of what's been happening in music. That's the problem with the record. It's just it's a sort of soft rock, pop kind of thing. The songs are not very interesting, so yeah, I'm sort of being completist, but maybe I shouldn't be. It's quite a funny story attached to the cover. The idea for the cover was to photograph a sheep on maybe a Caribbean beach. So they sent Hypnosis out there to some Caribbean island somewhere and paid a lot of money to get them there. And it was only when they got there that they asked themselves the question, actually, are there any sheep on this island at all? And it was a desperate struggle to find a sheep for the cover, but they did actually manage to find one in the end. So there we go. So yeah, not great. Recorded at Strawberry Studios, and there's a couple of decent-ish tracks. The first song, 125, I think might have been a single, Welcome to the World. It's kind of okay, but yeah, not the best. Certainly not the record to start with if you don't know 10cc's music. Okay, so let's move on to some things which are a little bit more interesting. I picked this one up from Heightside Records because I just finished reading a biography of Jimi Hendrix, which I showed in a few videos back, And I've only ever listened to two posthumous Hendrix records, Cry of Love, which is a classic I think, and People, Hell and Angels, which is quite a recent one. This is one of the original posthumous ones, and I think it came out in '74, might have been the second, and it was produced by the guy that had been working with Hendrix towards the end of his life, Alan Douglas, who was a jazz producer really. You know, he produced Miles Davis and a few other people. And there was some controversy around these releases, obviously because Hendrix was dead. And but he'd recorded lots of demos in the months before his death. And Alan Douglas took these demos and he overdubbed musicians on top of them. Most of whom had never played with Hendrix before. There's one track on this record which Mitch Mitchell plays on, and apart from that, yeah, he plays on Hear My Train. Apart from that, it's all session guys. So I picked it up with no sort of high expectations really, but it's actually a really, really good record. I mean, Hendrix is definitely on here, there's no question about that. You can hear his guitar loud and clear, very distinctive style. The songs are good. There's a cracking track on side 2, Machine Gun, which is really good, excellent Hendrix track, and his cover of Blue Suede Shoes, which you might think would be not very good, but it's actually pretty good. It's pretty cooking. So yeah, I was pleased to grab this. It was only a £5. There's a bit of cover damage down that side there, but yeah, that was a nice pickup. And if I see any more of these Hendrix records, I will pick them up because I've been going through a bit of a Hendrix patch lately. So that was very nice. Now, bought on the same day as that one, this was sort of a blind buy, although I do have a track by this artist on a compilation CD somewhere, and I need to track it down. I can't remember anything about it other than that I liked it, so when I saw this record, I picked it up with some high expectations. This is Danny O'Keefe and the album So Long, Harry Truman, which came out in 1975. So I had to look up this guy. Guesswork from the back of the cover was that he had something to do with the Eagles, because on this record you've got Don Henley, and I was thinking maybe country rock. I think you've got, pretty sure Linda Ronstadt is on here somewhere. Andrew Gold is on here playing bass, obviously quite a well-connected guy. But no, he wasn't from the Eagles at all. He was, or is rather, a singer-songwriter. I think he's from Washington. He was in a band called Calliope. Don't know if they had any big success, and then he launched a solo career. He's one of those artists whose songs have been covered by everybody, you know. Country stars, a lot, have recorded his stuff. And I spoke to Headley about him, and Headley told me that he knew his first few albums and that they are quite highly regarded, and then he maybe started going down more of a pop kind of path. I think this is maybe his 4th or 5th record. I actually really enjoyed it. The first side gets a little bit maudlin in the middle. Starts out really well with a track called So Long, Harry Truman, which is really excellent. It's kind of bluesy, slightly country-ish. I don't know what you'd call it really, sort of bluesy country classic rock. And then side 2 hits a really nice rootsy kind of vibe. Covered Wagon, It's Been a Good Day, Fiddler's Jamboree, excellent track called Steel Guitar, featuring Glenn Frey on guitar, really gutsy kind of sound. Yeah, I think he's somebody that I would definitely pick up more of his records if I saw them. This one was cheap, and I suspect his early ones, which are maybe more highly regarded, are maybe harder to find and more expensive. But this was certainly a nice find, and just on Atlantic. Do you have an inner? We do have an inner lyric sheet. So yeah, Danny O'Keefe, nice discovery, nice record. Okay, so the last few are all online purchases. No, I tell a lie, this next one was also from Heightside Records. Now I jumped on this because, well, it was £15, which is not cheap, but it is a record that I've been after for years, literally since probably I was about 16, which is when I first heard this artist for the first time. It's a record that I've never really seen around, but it's an absolute towering rock classic. So when I saw it, it's a reissue. When I saw it, I had to grab it. And this is Layla and Other Assorted Love Songs, Derek and the Dominoes, which of course is Eric Clapton. I'm not sure when the reissue came out, but it is a reissue. Beautiful condition, plays really well, plays like a dream actually. So just great to have this at last. It is a highly regarded album. It's a rock classic, even if you think Clapton's a wanker, which I know some people do. This is a tremendous album. It's got a great sound. Really, it's nothing like the kind of sound that Clapton would go on to develop, that kind of clipped, slightly manicured kind of blues rock sound, which I do like. I like a lot of 70s Clapton, you know, later on. Even going into the 80s, I quite like Clapton. But this record is not like that. It's got a very raw kind of sound, very live sounding, quite messy sounding. You know, not a million miles away from Exile on Main Street in a way. Lots going on. The mix is quite chaotic. It's very kind of electric and very powerful. Some extremely powerful blues playing on here. You've got some blues covers which are just incredible. Key to the Highway, the Big Bill Broonzy song, amazing. Just incredible. Nobody Knows You When You're Down and Out by Jimmy Cox, another incredible song. And then of course you've got Layla on here, and just one of those tracks which you only ever hear on compilation albums or, you know, on a jukebox, which is certainly how I came to know the song back in the day. But to hear it in its original position on the album, it's really interesting. It's one of those songs which I think you have to hear it on the original album to know exactly how it kind of works. It's a bit like Bohemian Rhapsody in that respect. You know, you're so used to hearing that song on its own. When you finally hear it at the end of Night at the Opera, it almost makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end because you hear it in the context that it was originally designed to be heard in. Yeah, and I mean, the history of this album is so interesting and so complicated. Clapton had this conversion experience, I think, in the late 60s when he heard the band for the first time, and he was tired of being a blues rock god. And he formed Blind Faith with Stevie Winwood, and they'd done a tour, and supporting them on that tour was Delana and Bonnie, and Clapton ended up joining that band, and then the musicians from that band ended up forming Derek and the Dominoes with Eric Clapton. So you had Carl Raddle on bass, you had Jim Gordon on drums, Bobby Whitlock on keyboards, and also on this record you got a lot of really incredible slide playing by Duane Allman as well. So certainly extremely impressive roll call of musicians, produced by Tom Dowd. Sounds so glamorous, recorded at Atlantic South Criteria Studios, Miami, Florida. Yeah, what a life that must have been. Anyway, yeah, really pleased to find that. Would have been nice to have an original, but beggars can't be choosers. Okay, so those are all the face-to-face purchases. What's left are just a few online things. And this next one is a record which I've been after for years, never seen it around. What finally decided me in pulling the trigger on it as a sort of online purchase, I think it was probably Amazon, was seeing Steve Carlson show it in a recent-ish video of his. And I decided it was finally time that I owned it. This is Pieces of a Man by Gil Scott-Heron, who was an extremely well-renowned poet, really, a spoken word poet. I think he referred to himself as a bluesologist, very political, and this was his first studio album, but he'd done a live album prior to this, and it was a team-up with a jazz pianist and flautist by the name of Brian Jackson. And Brian Jackson co-writes all the songs on side 2 of this record, and they're very lyrical, very shades of Marvin Gaye, quite kind of nice sounding. But on side one is all written just by Gil Scott-Heron. It starts out with "The Revolution Will Not Be Televised," which is his masterpiece, really, and it was I think it was seen as being very influential on hip hop because it's basically a kind of R&B track with him kind of talking over it. Incredible words, just really amazing. You know, very highly politically charged kind of stuff. I guess he's a bit of a soul brother with Curtis Mayfield, that kind of 1970s urban, political, social kind of thing going on. And tremendous musicians on this record. You've got Pretty Purdy and the Playboys. That's Bernard Purdy, the R&B drummer who played with everybody back in the day. So really nice reissue. Originally released on Flying Dutchman. And just one of those records that I've been after for so many years and just have long given up on ever finding an original of it. So I thought, why not? Let's just go down the reissue route. So there it is. I do have another classic soul reissue, which is just sat over there. I haven't played it yet, I haven't cleaned it up yet, so I'll wait until I've cleaned it up and then I'll show that in my next finds video. That one definitely a very good album, one I'm very pleased to own at long last, after many years of dithering. Okay, so the last 3 are all eBay purchases. all second-hand, and they're just all things that I got sick and tired of waiting for them to turn up in the wild. I'm going to do a video on this bunch. It's going to be in my series called Incomplete Collections, but I decided that my collection was too incomplete to do that video. I wanted to pick up another couple of the more easy to find ones. Well, I say that, this is an easy to find one online anyway. Feet Don't Fail Me Now by Little Feat, which is their 4th album. Just never seen it around, you know, so I thought I would grab that one. Not going to say too much about these because I'm going to do a video on them anyway, so I'll kind of save that. But I picked this up from eBay for not much. It was, I think it was under a tenner, and it's in good nick. Love the artwork on their records. So yeah, the great kind of southern funk, blues, soul band led by Lowell George. Bunny Raitt's on this record. So there was that one, and then this one is a harder album to find. There is a twofer of it, which pairs up this and the 3rd album, but I didn't really want a twofer. I wanted to get an original copy of their debut album, which is an absolute classic. So this is the Little Feat debut album, which I think came out 1975, actually, a bit later than I thought. And this is their most kind of earthy one, really. It's not very commercial at all. The big song off the album is Willin', which was covered by everybody. But the rest of the record is pretty swampy. It's not very sort of radio friendly, but it's a cracking album if you get into it. You know, lots of depth there. So nice to have that. And it came with this original sticker on it, which is very cool. So yeah, really chuffed to get that, and it's not one that turns up very often. The one that I don't have, which I've pretty much given up on finding, at least at a decent price, is the 2nd album, which for some reason that one is just really, really difficult to track down. But this one, got this on eBay. I think the guy wanted £20 and I made him an offer. I knocked a few quid off and he agreed to that, so got that one. So the final thing today, this is a band that I discovered really by the vinyl community. It was Ron Beaudry. This is going back about 5 or 6 years now. I'd always loved the name of this band, but I'd never really heard them. And Ron talked about them a lot in the early videos of his, which I watched. This is Blue Oyster Cult. This is their original 1st album, which came out in, I don't know when. Hard rock band from New York, and from 1972. I picked a few of their records up on CD, really enjoyed them. Very kind of cult rock, dark, bluesy, overdriven kind of sound. Really interesting lyrics, actually. A lot of the lyrics were written for them by their manager, I think, and also by Patti Smith. And they have this kind of almost dystopian Philip K. Dick kind of vibe to them. And they've just got great atmosphere. That's what I like about them. I think later on they became more of a kind of radio-friendly kind of rock band, but in the early days they were much more of a cult kind of outfit. So just really wanted to own this record because I just love the cover art. And there's a bit of a stain down here you can see, which I don't think is ever going to come off. I don't know what it is. Looks like grease. Yeah, so got it from I think from eBay at a good price. It was not expensive really, in the scheme of things. So I'm going to look for probably the 2nd, 3rd and 4th albums and then leave it at that, because I think after that maybe they get a bit less interesting. So there we go, a bit of Blue Oyster Cult to finish us off. So I've got at least another one Vinyl Finds video before I can clear the in-deck, and I've got some VCLT to show as well, so I'll get to that hopefully in the not too distant. So thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you all soon. Take care, bye.